Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this week's video, we are going to make 5 awesome sounds on the powerhouse that is the Juno 106, and they sound like this. So as you can see, the layout is very similar to the SH101, which I did a video about a little bit ago. We have the same sort of LFO, a very similar VCO, but it's called a DCO on here, obviously digital controlled oscillator. We have a high pass filter, which we didn't have on the SH101. Very similar VCF section with the same mod sources and that, and the same filter and resonance. We don't have the VCA on the SH101, but we have it here to give us a little bit more volume and some more options with the gate. And then we have the same envelope section, and then we have the beast, which is the 106 chorus, which everyone, well, a lot of people love, and it can make almost any mundane sound just become awesome. So first up, we're going to create a string sound, and you can hear we've got no sound. So let's bring up some sustain. We got the VCA set to 0, so it gives us a nice halfway point. If the sound gets a little bit too loud, we can pull that down, or we can push it up just a little bit. And then for the filter, let's open that all the way. So still no sound because we have no oscillators going at the moment. Now, I don't know if this is because my Juno 106 is maybe a little bit old or broken or whatnot, but if I bring up the square wave, well, square pulse, and you can see on the little overlay that it's not really a square. And then if I change this to manual for the pulse width, it's kind of a triangle on the front, and then it's maybe a triangle on the back. Maybe it needs to be serviced, but I think it sounds great to me. So it's the same sort of thing with the sawtooth. Pretty good on the front, but a little bit rounded on the back. And then on the sub, it's kind of a triangle-y square sort of thing. But we persist and we just make the sounds, and if this sounds a little bit different to yours, just be aware it might be because the oscillator is a little bit different. I mean, it is an older synth, so yeah, these are the things we deal with. So first up, we are going to add our pulse width, our square wave, which can be pulse width. So let's select that by just pushing the button. And then we're going to add a little bit of, we're going to change the pulse width a little bit, and then we're going to change the source to LFO, and then we're going to increase the LFO rate just a little bit so we get like a smooth change. There we go. It sounds more like it's drifting, even a little bit less than that. There we go. So if I play this note, you can hear that sound change over time. So next up, we are going to add a sawtooth. And again, you can hear that changing over time. And then we're going to add the sub. And we can pull this volume down just a little bit. Give us a little bit more headroom. And again, as I play those single notes, you can hear that changing over time. Next up, we're going to add some noise in. Just to kind of rough up the sound a little bit. We don't want it to be like super perfect or anything like that. Now that we've finished with the source of the sound, we're going to come over into the high pass filter. And for this, we are going to take a bunch of those low end out. Obviously, you could do this after the fact within like an EQ or a filter or something like that. But since it has it built in, we can use that to our advantage and then kind of don't have to worry about stuff down the road. So maybe about 2 for that. And I do have a little MIDI clip here that we can play. So, and then let's turn down that VCA just a little bit. And the noise is a little bit overpowering, so I've bumped that back to about 3 out of 5. You can see we got the 5 there. Next up, we've used the high pass filter here. Let's go into the VCF section. So this is going to be the filter and all the good stuff associated with that. So let's pull the filter frequency down. Let's add a little bit of resonance to kind of give it a little bit more of a spacey feel. And now that sounds good, but there's no movement there. And we have this here where we can go positive or negative on the envelope, but we just want to stay positive, and we're going to increase this envelope amount till we get sort of something in the ballpark that we're after. Now, before we go too far with the envelope here, because this envelope amount is how much of this envelope is affecting this filter. So what we can do is we're going to shape this filter a little bit. So we want a slower attack, so about 6. Decay is going to be just a little bit above that. Sustain a little bit above that, and then release maybe like 4 or 5 there. So now bring down the envelope here on the VCF section, and then we can start to introduce this envelope to this filter. So maybe a little bit less noise. And let's pull down. I like this, but it seems a little bit too dark. So let's bump up the range to 4 feet. So I like how much of that envelope is affecting this filter frequency. Now let's look at the other two. For the LFO, we're not going to change it. If I increase that now, so that's this LFO rate affecting that filter. I don't want that on this one, but we do want the keyboard tracking. So when we play something higher up the keyboard around here, we're going to get more of an open filter, but if we play something down lower around here, it's going to be a little bit more closed. So we can bump that back a little bit. So I just pulled down the sustain just a little bit to kind of let the decay sort of drive it a little bit more. I don't want it to decay and then stay at that level. I want it to kind of dip down a little bit more. And then we've left everything else. And then lastly, we have the chorus. So if I play it again. And we'll introduce the chorus now. And that's chorus 1. And that's chorus 2. If I just play a single note on chorus 1, and then chorus 2, you can't really hear too much difference. I find that chorus 2, you'll hear it more if I play something, keep my hands in the shot there. It's really hard to tell, but I think that the chorus 2 sounds a little bit brighter on the higher end sort of register. They both sound great, but I kind of prefer 2 for more of the higher pad strings and maybe the lead, and then chorus 1 is, I find it better for sort of the bass and whatnot. So there's our first patch. So let's move on to the next one. So next up, we are going to look at a bass sound. One thing to keep in mind, if I just bring up this. If we have a lot of release on the bass patch, because this is a this is a poly synth, you can hear that those sounds will start to build on each other and can sort of overwhelm the mix. So just be aware when you're creating a patch or you're looking at different poly options. If you have a long release, you might start to overlap notes and then start to get that builder. And then when you're playing in the lower, it just turns into a mess. So just keep that in mind when you're creating patches on yours. So first up, we're going to look at obviously the DCO section again. And for this, we are going to do another square wave. And we'll go the saw as well. And then for this, we can go down to 16 feet. So we're in that sort of bass register. I have a little bass clip, which we can play once we start to sort of shape everything up. So we have our little bass register, but we also want the sub oscillator in there as well. So you can hear as I introduce that, it starts to get that sort of nice weight to it. So we want to set this to the pulse width to LFO again, and then we're going to increase this a little bit more. So not too crazy, so there we go. From here, we're not going to use the filter, but we are going to use a little bit of noise. So just a little bit. So we're going to go, we'll keep it about 2. We'll come across to the filter now, and we're going to pull this all the way down to about 1 or 2, and then a little bit of resonance. And then we'll start to increase this envelope here. But we want to come across to the envelope and adjust that, so then this amount will affect this. So let's come along. Want the sustain pretty low. There's going to be a relatively sort of plucky bass, but we're going to get a lot of character out of it. And Here's our little now, to kind of avoid that sort of sound that we're getting before where we get like this overload, we're going to use a little trick, which I'm sure most people know about already, that if you press poly 1 and poly 2, you get kind of a unison sound. It changes it completely. So we have our sound going here. And now if I do the unison, you can hear that's really beefy. So let's pull down this sub a little bit. And then we'll come across, we want sustain down a little bit. Let's pull down this envelope amount. And then increase this keyboard tracking a little bit. Let's increase this envelope amount just a little bit. I want that nice little attack on that. And if I play that with the kick, now we've kind of done most of our sound designing. Let's come across to the chorus. We're gonna introduce chorus 1, and you can hear it automatically. That's made it super wide. So let's start to look at this. Let's pull down this sub a little bit. And then let's decrease the VCA just a little bit. And I'm just doing really fine adjustments to each of these. There we go. Pull down the sustain a little bit to kind of not overwhelm everything. Maybe a little bit more resonance. I found also with the resonance that as you increase it, it will kind of scoop away some of the subs and the low end. So and there we go. Sort of different bass. It kind of gives a little bit more character with once we sort of introduce this unison mode and get really thick bass sort of sound. And then obviously if you take that chorus away, it really like focuses that bass into the center. But I like the chorus sound and I like the effect that it does. So next up, let's make a big pad. I mean, this thing is built for strings and pads, so let's make the most of it and get cracking. So first up, we want to, obviously, with our DCO section, for this, we're going to use again, a square wave, and then increase that pulse width all the way. We're going to keep, let's keep it to LFO, and then we got the LFO rate set to about 1, and then the pulse is set all the way to 10. So we're going to get some nice movement on that when we start to. You can hear it's really pronounced when it's just the one oscillator, but when we start to add another oscillator, it has something a little bit more constant in there. And we're also going to add the full sub oscillator. Now we just have some really good movement from the pulse width underneath everything else to kind of really give movement to the whole pad. So if we have a chord progression go through a whole song, it's going to be constantly changing, even if we don't touch the filter and everything like that. It just keeps it moving and keeps it fresh all the time. So from here, we're going to look at the noise. And for this one, we're going to add, we'll start at 4 and we'll go from there. We're going to keep the high pass all the way down, so there's no high pass. And then let's pull this frequency down, so to about 4 to begin with. Resonance is going to be up to about 2 or 3. And the envelope amount, let's start at about 3. And then we can shape this envelope and then start to dial in the frequency amount, the resonance, and the amount of envelope that's been sent to the filter. So this is going to be a pad, so it's going to have a slow attack. And then we want that decay all the way up. Sustain is going to be down just a little bit, and then release maybe about 6. And then let's play it with the MIDI clip, and then I can use 2 hands to kind of make changes and whatnot. I can already hear that's a little bit too low, so let's go up to 4 feet. Let's increase this keyboard tracking all the way up. Let's increase this envelope amount. And what we can do now is just add just a hair of the LFO for the mod source into the filter to kind of give a little bit more movement on top. And obviously the timing of this would be dictated by the LFO over here, which is also changing the pulse width. So we don't want to go too crazy, but just a little bit to kind of, we're going to get a difference in amplitude, and then obviously a difference in pitch, pulse width, and then obviously the envelope is also going to be adjusting that filter. So we're going to get multiple points of movement throughout the whole patch. So I've got that up, it's not even at 1, it'd be like half, like 0.5 or something. And then lastly, let's look at the chorus, and we're going to add in chorus 2. So I think that's about it for that one. Next up, we are going to make an effect. So for this, we're not going to use any of the main oscillators. We're just going to use the noise oscillator. And then we're going to use the LFO to kind of dictate how it sounds. And we're going to do something a little bit different now. So let's increase this LFO rate to about 3/4. And then for the envelope, we are going to pop that into the negative. So we've been operating in the positive. We're going to change that to the negative. And let's increase the frequency a little bit. So at the moment, got that little click at the moment. We don't have anything going on here. So let's increase this attack all the way. And you can hear that attack is working through here. So then let's increase this envelope. You can hear it starts and then dips down. So what we're going to do is have the attack and the release up. So it dips down when I push the key because of this value, and then it comes back up because of the sustain. So let's increase this VCA and turn the volume up all the way over on the left-hand side, just out of shot. But you can hear that dipping down and then back up again. So now we're going to use the LFO and the keyboard tracking. So keyboard tracking all the way. Not too much difference until we sort of start to go up the range. So, and then we're going to use this LFO to make the most changes. So to get all the way up with that LFO. And now we get that. So if I take that off, we kind of get this helicopter effect. Off in the distance, and then away it goes. We want, let's see what else we can do to it. Let's increase this envelope amount just a little bit more, and then the filter a little bit more. So and we'll bring out that release. There we go. If we pull that release down to about 4, now we don't get it so chopped off at the end. What we can also do, we'll pull down the VCA a little bit and turn the volume down just on the left of the screen on the other controls, is we're going to make it back to unison. Get a little bit more beef out of it now since we're just using the one oscillator. And then let's use that awesome chorus again. Really widens the sound out now. So there we go, simple little effect using the LFO to adjust the filter, and we're using the envelope into the filter but in the negative sense as opposed to the positive. So let's move on to the next one. So last up, we're going to make a square spacey sort of lead. So again, I've zeroed it out, but let's bring up the filter frequency, and we got the sustain here. Let's come across and we're going to look at the pulse width. But for this one, we're going to change it to manual. So now when we play it, we're going to actually no, let's just keep it there. We're going to keep it on 0. We want that nice square, just solid tone. We're going to come across, actually, well, let's increase it up to 4 feet. So now we're in that higher register. We're not going to use a sub, we're not going to use the noise, and we're not going to use the filter. We're going to come across to, the high pass filter, I should say. Let's come across to the VCF. we're going to pull this down to about halfway and then increase the resonance. So it's a little, you can hear some of it. Actually, this is a good demonstration. You can hear the bass really build up when the resonance comes down to 0. So again, keep that in mind when you're creating your patches. We'll go to 5 again on the frequency and then bring the resonance up to about 3. My resonance is a little scratchy, so I'm just doing a little DJ. There we go. It must have been the frequency, filter frequency that was doing that. Let's put this into the positive for the envelope, and then let's just increase the envelope just a little bit. And then we're going to come across and let's shape this envelope here. Again, I have like a little MIDI clip. You can hear that clicking away there. Let's increase the keyboard tracking all the way, and then let's start to shape this envelope. It is a little bit too high, so let's go back down. Attack all the way down on this one. Nice and plucky there. And just a little bit of LFO and a little bit of rate. If I go all the way, you can hear that sort of going up and down. And then we're going to come across to the chorus and turn the second chorus on. Now this sounds pretty good, but we can still dial in this filter a little bit more. And one thing I like to do is I'll keep this frequency sort of in that middle range, and then just off shot I've got the bender and like you can assign it to different things, and I have it set to the filter. So if we play this with the kick, and this is the polyrhythm one. And if I start to open the filter now, we can increase that and release a little bit. And then we can even decrease this a little bit more. And you get that awesome sort of that repetitive techno sort of sound that I love. Again, you don't have to use the bender like to change the filter. You can do it from here, but because my filter slider is a little bit dusty and it kind of wobbles a little bit, it can be a little bit harsh. So So there we go. I think we have made 5 pretty decent, diverse patches on the 106. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but obviously has a little bit more than the SH101, and it is poly, so you can do a lot more than the SH101, but obviously not as much as more modern synths. But it is a powerhouse, and it does find its way onto a lot of my music, just because if I have a sound in my head, it's pretty easy to create on here, and this synth, the 106, has a distinct sound to it, and I really like it. So hopefully you've got something out of this video and it's inspired you to create something today. And until next time, see you later.